WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
We are keeping things rolling here on the Sports Cubicle. I'm your host, Mike Mercado, here with Paul Chivari, Devin Tingle, and the marvelous one, Dan Marver. Give us a call at 773-763-9278. Check out the YouTube channel. Subscribe to us. Give us a like at the Sports Cubicle. Email us at sportscubicle@gmail.com. If you missed any one of our segments and you want to listen to it at the gym, on the train, on your way home, check us out at soundcloud.com/WCPT820/tracks. So one of the uplifting stories that I wanted to talk about, and it's something that I have to equal on this very show, I said Lonzo Ball would never play another NBA basketball game for the Chicago Bulls. Not only was I disproven, not only did Lonzo shove it in my face, he is now starting once again for the Chicago Bulls, starting today against the now DeMar DeRozan-led Sacramento Kings.
It's already over. The Kings won.
There we go. And I think beyond this, because I think this Bulls season's kind of a wash, it doesn't really matter. They should be going for draft picks. This roster is kind of a mess the way it's built. There are some things, Marver and I have talked about it for years. There are some things we do like, some things we don't like. But one thing I do love is what we've seen from Lonzo Ball off the court. For those of you who don't know, it was his third meniscus surgery. And it got to the point where they had to do a transplant, one of the first of its kind. And I believe it was from a dead body. What is the proper saying? A cadaver?
Stem cells or from a cadaver. Yeah.
So this is something that has never been done before. And we've seen videos of him and people mocking him, including Stephen A. Smith, of him not being able to get up and down from a chair. Now we are seeing this man from this surgery we've never seen before, starting in the NBA. And not just starting as a nice story, a favor done by the Chicago Bulls, so that for his perseverance and for him doing all this, he's earned the right to be a starter again. He's worked on his three-point shot over the last 5 years to become a prolific three-point shooter. The Bulls brought in Lonzo Ball years ago because they believed that he can control this offense, control this pace, get the ball to Zach LaVine, get the ball to DeMar DeRozan. When you had Alex Caruso doing all the intangible things, they thought they had themselves a top-tier point guard in this league, and injuries completely derailed what could have been a very promising run for this Bulls team. But unlike other injuries, like we saw with one of my favorite players of all time, Brandon Roy, where he just didn't have any cartilage in those knees anymore, we've seen Lonzo Ball overcome all that and dunk in an NBA game, cut in an NBA game, run a fast break in an NBA game. I don't care if this team gets to a plan. I don't care. I would love if they get Cooper Rush or if they get Cooper Flag. That would be great. But I don't care about anything else. The Bulls season to me is a wash. It's whatever. You got to move on from Zach LaVine. We'll get to that in a second. But Lonzo Ball is an inspiration. And 10 years from now, when the surgery gets better, and there's players in this league that are so explosive still after major knee surgery, we will look back to what Lonzo Ball meant to the NBA long-term. Paulie, what did you think about this? I mean, let's take away all the stuff from the Ball family, the Triple B, all that. Lonzo's been a great professional, as legitimately a professional. Maybe not on the court, the stats will say, but as a pro, he's been a pro. Mm-hmm. His recovery, getting back on the court, people like myself who I always give the benefit, I did not think he would be able to come this type of medical just avalanche of injuries that he had to deal with. What did you think about seeing Lonzo start again and kind of what he's meant to people, not just on the Bulls, but for the league as an inspiration?
It's inspiring seeing him come back. Like you were saying, I was with you. I didn't think he'd ever come back, or if he did, he'd be a shell of a player, be out of the league fairly quickly, maybe be a G League or international type of player, join his brother over in Lithuania or whatever. Yeah. All those brothers coming back, I want to say LaMelo, but yeah, I didn't think that Lonzo would make an impact, and it was clear that he made a huge impact on the team before he got injured, and they arguably were never the same after he got injured. They kind of middling in the the play-in game sort of territory where I think he kind of got them a little bit over the hump. But the Bulls are an absolute mess nowadays. And you were mentioning that they got to move on from Zach LaVine, which is big right now. With Ball coming back, perhaps that maybe provides a chance for a new look. If you get rid of a LaVine, maybe you can kind of build around Kobe White and Ball going forward. It's sad because we talk about this all the time, with the Bulls being the fan base that they have, the stadium that they have, the legacy that they have, just the fact that year after year they're mediocre trash all the time. It's time to blow it up and do something. And
because
I don't care if that's
owner they have.
Perhaps there's some to that. Michael has more input though than Jerry does.
And I think sometimes with the NBA, though, it's just such a star-driven league that it's just they never were able to attract some of the bigger guys. The big star, like the DeRozan, Levine.
It wasn't number one seed.
Yeah.
It wasn't number one seed until everybody got hurt. To your point, it was working until it wasn't working.
Yeah. I don't know. And that was just basically my thing. It's like it's stale, so it's just time to blow it up. Vucevic is having a great season, but almost you got to strike while the iron's hot and just start over.
Yeah, and you and I have been on that a long time. You've been the one who's been really
blow it up.
Yeah. Marver,
otherwise, they're gonna be number 10 every year.
And you don't want there's no point of being a number 10. It's not the NFL where because you're in it you can win it. No, you in the NBA you need to be a top 4 and you need to have top superstars. And I like. Enough Giddey. I like Kobe enough, but you need to move on from Vooch. You need to move on from Zach. And Marver, you and I have had this conversation for years now, from the time when Lonzo first got hurt, from when DeMar was an MVP type of player the first half of that season 3 years ago at this point, from the Zach LaVine, will he go, won't he go? Where are you on where the Bulls kind of stand right now in the standings? And what I feel is more importantly, the triumphant return of Lonzo Ball.
Well, the Ball story is amazing, and I really think that Stephen A. Smith was really offline when he was making fun of him that he couldn't even stand up and all this, so he should be eating crow for his comments early on. But right now the Bulls are 18-21. They're in the same place they always are, 10th place. I mean, in the Western Conference they wouldn't even be in 10th because Golden State's 19-19 in 10th place. But and Philadelphia's on their heels. They're a game and a half from not even qualifying for the play-in. So it's clear that something should happen here. They were able to beat the worst team in the league, Washington, which was good. It was only won 6 games. So obviously,
but I want to say one of Washington's 6 wins was against the Bulls right. A few weeks ago.
Right. And so it's unbelievable the Ball star. I mean, in 21-22, he played in the 35 games, averaged 13 points, 5.1 assists, 42% on 3-pointers. So, and they had a really good record at that point, and they haven't had a really good record since then, actually. So, he had a cartilage transplant in March 2023, third operation in little more than a year. And then, of course, he had the new meniscus to go with the cartilage transplant, and then a bone allograft, where you're talking about the replacement bone came from another person, actually.
There you go. Yeah.
So, yeah.
And that's one of the first in its kind where they're grafting bones from cadavers.
Yeah, I don't know. Was it another living person?
The way he's playing right now, and this is what amazes me about that injury and why I'm maybe so fixated on it. It's not just that he overcame the injury and that he's playing again. It's what is this surgery, this procedure going to mean for sports?
Is he the Tommy John for basketball knees?
Yeah. And what does that mean for future stars? There's going to be a star 10, 15 years from now that we don't know of, that's playing in AAU ball, that's going to have this procedure, that his stardom is saved because of this. Marver, I need an update on the Philadelphia Green Bay game.
Field goal, Green Bay 10-3, 5:46 to go in the third. Back to you.
And I also wanted to throw one team about the Bulls. This team has been looking for a point guard since Derrick Rose. And it's not just trying to, find the things in the stars.
Are we counting Jimmy, or is he a shooting guard?
Jimmy was more like that point forward type
okay,
of
so
team.
Before we get to,
and that was not Jimmy. That Jimmy's not.
Jimmy wants out of Miami, clear as day.
Yes.
LaVine is going to cost a pretty penny, so he's hard to move.
Yes.
Is there something to a straight up trade, as long as straight up with maybe some money to balance it out?
I would think in some.
And do the Bulls want to be reunited with Jimmy Butler?
I don't think either one of these teams wants either one of those players, including the teams that they play for.
And does Butler even want to go to a Bulls?
No, I think Zach LaVine wants to be your 3 or 4 for a team that's going to be in the playoffs in the Western Conference.
I think LaVine would fit with the Heat.
I think LaVine will fit with a lot of teams.
Yeah.
I think LaVine will fit great as a number 3 or 4 in a lot of teams.
But money-wise, he's too much, I think, for what role
and what teams
would want him for.
And not just, and what you want back. Not just in money, but in assets, in draft capital. And I think somebody like Jimmy, Jimmy wants to go where he can not only rub it in the face of the Miami Heat, but he wants to be an alpha. Zach LaVine could be an alpha in his mind while still being the 3. So it's two dynamics that are very interesting because they're both very dynamic and very explosive in what they bring to the table. When they're bringing it to the table, it's just what do they fit for a team that's trying to win a championship? Like imagine a Zach LaVine with a Denver Nuggets or a team that's like high pace, high volume, able to get a lot of shots up, and also having superstars are ready to take that load off of him. So I want to know to you, though, Devin, because Lonzo Ball, inspirational story, great for him, doesn't really mean anything for wins or losses. But Zach LaVine also on this roster going to be moved. Nikola Vucevic going to be moved. I know your trepidation and your frustration with the Reinsdorf-owned team, but it being Michael Reinsdorf, it being Mark Eversley and Arturas Karnisovas running this thing, Billy Donovan on the coaching staff. It is a competent ran organization when it comes to everybody if you want to take Jerry out of the situation, because I do trust Michael more than Jerry when it comes to the Bulls. Your thoughts on kind of what's going on over at the Madhouse on Madison?
Yeah, but to go back to that, they came out that Jerry Reinsdorf said, keep the team just good enough. And we've lost, 3 or 4 play-in games in a row at this point? If that doesn't sound like a team that's just good enough, I don't know what is here. Again, we've been talking about the Zach LaVine trade or trading Zach LaVine since I think the time the Bulls got him or since we got this show. It's always been a topic of interest. And it's a matter of when are they going to finally pull the trigger? When his contract's finally up and you're just forcing not even have him on the team anymore? Of course not. They'll find a way to re-sign him. Let's be real here. We know Jerry spends money when he absolutely has to, but just it's at the point where it's like, what does this team want to be? Does it want to continue to be just good enough and lose the play-in game year in and year after year after year? I'm sorry here. And that's just my frustration because you say, oh, it's Michael Reinsdorf. This kind of feels like a Jerry Reinsdorf team to the T.
I think that's it. It is a legit worry if you're somebody who always is looking for the Jerry Reinsdorf interference and the Jerry Reinsdorf isms that you might see from a team that is ran by him. I do think that there's a different type of TLC that is taken between the two organizations. I do think Jerry loves the Chicago White Sox. I think he cares what the Chicago White Sox are doing. I think he loves that his son loves that the Bulls do this. Like, what is the old adage? You remember better. He would trade all his NBA championships for another World Series.
Yeah.
So it's not like
for one World Series ring,
so
which he got it already.
So Jerry loves the White Sox more than the Bulls, even though he could love them both. It's like picking your favorite child. If you're the Bulls, I think looking for the future, you got to look at the landscape of the NBA. If you can't get the number 1 overall pick, then you need to get a superstar. And I've been telling Marver in our segments over the years that the Chicago Bulls have always done one thing poorly, and that's setting themselves up for when a superstar is disgruntled and you can make a move. Year after year after year, the Bulls put themselves in position to be just good enough to be a 10th seed, a 9th seed, an 8th seed. They play good defense. They hustle. But when a name like, Anthony Edwards becomes available in a year or two, they have no draft capital. They have no salary cap space, so they can't make a move. Good teams look 2, 3, 4 years down the road. Superstar teams that win championships know that. The Chicago Bulls have constantly either finished in second place because they have no idea how to recruit a young NBA athlete and never have. Ask Tracy McGrady, ask LeBron James, ask Tim Duncan, ask Kevin Garnett. The list goes on and on and on and on. They don't know how to do this. If the Bulls are ever going to do what matters the most in that organization and win championship number 7, post Michael Jordan, they have to get a superstar. And I promise you, there are plenty of disgruntled superstars in the NBA if you put yourself in the right position. But right now, what can the Bulls do if Anthony Edwards is available? If Minnesota comes to you right now and says, here, give us your best assets. They can't offer a top-tier draft pick. They can't offer an up-and-coming star. They can't offer all these great expiring contracts. So once again, they have played themselves in a position where they have to hope for a miracle. And hoping is not a strategy. It's not a plan. And too many times in this city, we have seen that from organizations, from front offices, and specifically this Bulls team. But I want to bring up something really fast, and I I want to wrap it up because I do want to hit the north and south side on the diamond. But Paulie, I see that you found something a little interesting about the Bulls front office and kind of how everything is being handled.
Well, yeah. I mean, so we don't talk about their front office nowadays as much as we talked about the previous regime of, Gar Forman and John Paxson. But Arturas Karnisovas has been to the Bulls long enough now where is he kind of on the hot seat? If they get through this trade deadline and they get through the season and it's still, going to the playoff game or missing the playoffs and you've got the same roster, do you blow it up there too from the front office?